and guidance during this difficult time. So, away we go into this morning's talk. July is a month for the study of Jnana Yoga, Advaita Vedanta. As a Jnana yogi, you practice discrimination, reason, detachment, and satyagraha, insistence on truth. The goal is freedom from limitation. The goal is freedom from limitation, moksha. Our teachers say that all miseries in life are caused by seeing inaccurately. An earnest and persistent jnani may break through this misapprehension, maya, and see only the divine presence everywhere, in everything and everyone. So I've already done our chant. No one is asked to sing. And so once again, welcome everyone. The topic for this morning is, what is this center and why are we here? What is this center and why are we here? This morning, that question will be answered in some detail. We'll start in 1881, when a teenager named Narendranath Dutta, somebody has their microphone open and is making some noise that is a bit distracting. So if you could just mute your microphone until you're ready to make a comment or a question later on, that would be a kindness. So as I said, we'll start in 1881, when a teenager in Calcutta named Narendranath Dutta met Sri Ramakrishna. According to Narendra, Ramakrishna carefully trained him for the mission he was to undertake. Though he didn't tell him what that mission was, he did say that, Sri Ramakrishna did say that Vivekananda would be a world teacher. So he had that frame of reference for what Sri Ramakrishna was teaching. Sri Ramakrishna's training took 6 years, from 1881, when Narendra was 18 years old, until 1886, when the master passed away. At that time, Narendra was 23. Over the next 7 years, from 1886 to 1893, Narendra became Swami Vivekananda, fully fit for the work Ramakrishna had in mind. Now, those of you who know Vivekananda's life know that he started the first monastery at Baranagar in Calcutta with his brother disciples. They informally took their sannyas vows at Premananda's ancestral home on a Christmas Eve. And so everything was rolling forward for the Ramakrishna order to begin, but that was not the primary mission at that time for Vivekananda. So Swamiji left for America at age 30. He took ship from Mumbai on May 31st, 1893, and docked in Vancouver, British Columbia on July 25th. Through a series of adventures and misadventures, he ended up in Boston due to the courtesy of a woman that he met on the train, actually, and was introduced to the intelligentsia and the faculty, particularly the philosophy faculty of Harvard. And because he didn't even know that he needed any credentials for the reason that he came, which was to go to the First World's Parliament of Religions, a Professor Wright at Harvard helped Swami Vivekananda with those credentials, though he wrote in his letter to the credentialing committee, asking Vivekananda for credentials is like asking the sun for credentials to shine. So on September 11th, at that first World's Parliament of Religions in Chicago, Swami Vivekananda spoke the fateful words that began to unfold his destiny as a teacher of Vedanta in the West. He said simply, "Sisters and brothers of America," and an audience of thousands. The count varies in the newspaper from somewhere around 4,000 to 7,000, but in any case, an audience of thousands rose as one after just those few words, "Sisters and brothers of America." The audience rose and offered him a 2-minute standing ovation. Vivekananda was once asked later on, some years later, by a brother disciple, "Why did they do that, Swamiji?" And Swami Vivekananda, and this is so important when we think of what the energy that he left with us, Swami Vivekananda said that from age 16, remember he was 30 when he went to the Parliament of World's Religions, from age 16, no impure thought had entered his mind, not even in sleep. So the power of his brahmacharya is what he brought to this, that purity. The resonance of his voice contained that spiritual discipline, that spiritual control. So 2-minute standing ovation, the first time he spoke, the only one who received anything like that. Vivekananda went on to become that events lasted 16 days. He went on to become the 16-day-long event's most popular and influential speaker. Then he stayed on to teach in the West for most of the next 10 years. As he said in February 1895, speaking to the Brooklyn, New York Ethical Association, the Brooklyn Ethical Association, he said to them, "I have a message to the West as Buddha had a message to the East." Now, we need to understand that Vivekananda, a few months after he said this in Brooklyn, he was in Thousand Island Park, New York, and he had the realization of Nirvikalpa Samadhi, the realization of Brahman. Sri Ramakrishna said, when he was training him, that when he had that realization on his own, Sri Ramakrishna gave him his first realization of Brahman, that first Nirvikalpa Samadhi state of being. He said, the next time you have this realization, your work will be done and you may go. That happened in June of 1895, that Nirvikalpa Samadhi experience in Thousand Island Park. Vivekananda, of his own loving volition, stayed for another 7 years to do his work in the West. So he had a message for us here in the West. Swamiji called that message Vedanta. It has resonated with spiritual seekers throughout the Americas from the early 1890s until today. That resonance and what has resulted from it is what we will define and explore this morning. By and large, Swamiji's message has been offered here in the West through Vedanta societies and centers. These outposts are most often headed by a Swami or Pravrajika of the Ramakrishna order. In the United States, there are both official centers Of course, we can think of Los Angeles or the Vedanta Society of Southern California and all of its branch centers, Northern California and San Francisco and all its branch centers, Berkeley, Sacramento, and then going on across the United States, St. Louis and New York, there are 3 in New York, Ridgely, and 2 in Manhattan itself, Boston, and so on. So these are official centers. And then there are those which are not yet official, such as your center here in Atlanta. There are many, Phoenix, Tucson, Detroit, North Carolina, Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina, Austin, Texas, Dallas, Texas. The one in Houston is an official center, and so on. So there are many of these yet not yet official centers, of which we are one. Vivekananda himself founded 2 Vedanta societies, one in New York City in 1894 and another in San Francisco in 1900. Now, at the time, those were the 2 financial capitals, the most influential cities of the East and West Coast. New York City on the East Coast, of course, and San Francisco in the West. You can see the intentionality of Swamiji. He actually came back from India in 1899. He'd gone home in 1897. He came back in 1899 to finish what he saw as unfinished work here. Swamiji also sent his brother disciples, Swami Sardananda, Swami Sardananda, Turiyananda, Abhedananda, Trigunatitananda, to lead these 2 centers and teach Swamiji's Vedanta to a growing audience in the West. These Swamis, some of them traveled and so on. And so though they didn't found any other centers themselves, these Swamis, they did indeed travel, and Abhedananda especially traveled a great deal. He was here in the West for 22 years. In the early decades of the 20th century, other Swamis of the Ramakrishna Order of India, disciples of Holy Mother, Brahmananda and Swamiji, were sent here to start Vedanta centers in major cities throughout the US and a few in Europe. Among these, and the reason I mention this in particular, you'll see as we follow along, among these that was founded by this second wave of Swamis was the Vivekananda Vedanta Society of Chicago, established by Swami Ganeshwarananda in 1930. In 1965, Swami Bhashananda became minister in charge of the Chicago Society. Under his guidance, the society expanded greatly and rapidly. With help from the founder of Xerox, Bhashananda established a campus on Hyde Park Boulevard in 1966. Notice he got here in 65, took over in 65. Immediately, he made an alliance with the man who founded Xerox, a very wealthy man, and started a campus on Hyde Park Boulevard, an important boulevard in Chicago in 1966. He also started the Vivekananda retreat in Ganges, Michigan in 1971. It's an interesting story. You can go to the Ganges website and see how the town became named Ganges and how it caught the Swami's attention and so on. That Ganges monastery continues to be a vibrant center under the leadership of Swami Ishatmananda. He's revitalized it greatly, and there are lots of activities there now. So Hyde Park, and then a monastery and retreat in Ganges, Michigan. Swami Bhashananda was a true missionary. He went on to establish many satellite Vedanta groups throughout the United States and Canada. The Swami started one of these groups in Atlanta. It first met in the home of Swarna Shah. During the 1970s, Bhashanandaji sent American Swamis, his disciples, American Swamis, to expand the work in several southern cities. These Swamis included Atmarupananda, Anamananda, Atmavratananda, and very, very dearly to us, Yogeshananda. In the early 1980s, Swami Yogeshananda decided to stay on here in Atlanta. After a few years, he established the Eternal Quest, a nonprofit organization to promote the study and practice of Vedanta. Meetings and classes were held in various rented locations. Then in 1999, the property here in Tucker was purchased to establish a permanent campus, which was named the Vedanta Center of Atlanta. Our chapel was dedicated on January 13th, 2007. Swami Yogeshananda retired to the Trabuco Monastery in California 2 years later, in January of 2009. To carry on Yogeshananda's work, Swami Swahananda, head of the Vedanta Society of Southern California, sent Swami Brahmavidyananda here. Swami Brahmavidyananda returned to the Hollywood campus in May of 2010. In June of that year, Swami Swahanandaji assigned me to serve as spiritual director and resident minister of this center. I arrived here in August, which brings us to this morning, almost 10 years later. And that's half the answer to what is this center and why are we here. So before we go on, we've got plenty of time. The second half of the talk is a bit longer, but I did want to summarize how this center came to be and how there came to be so many centers in the West, all because of the energy of Swami Vivekananda. So before we go on, are there any comments or questions about what is this center? Please be forthcoming. This is the part of this where we are studied together as a congregation. You may find if you ask a question that somebody else also has that same question in mind, or hadn't framed the question but is very glad to have the answer. So if you'd like to ask any question or make any comment about the part of this talk, what is this center? Now's the time to do it.
Brother Shankara.
Yes, Umaji.
Haji, what is the difference between official and unofficial centers in the way they operate, or how?
Each center operates according to how the center is by the desires and frame of reference and understanding of the head of the center. But the difference between an official center and an unofficial center is an official center is headed by a monastic that is a member of the Ramakrishna order in the most formal sense. That is, they have been given their sannyas vows by President Maharaj. So Swami Sarvadevananda is an example. Swami Tyagananda is an example. Swami Chaitanananda. Pravrajika Gita Prana in Ridgely is an example. Pravrajika Akanda Prana in Phoenix is an example. The unofficial centers either have no formal resident minister, or, as in the case of your resident minister, I was given my brahmacharya vows. I've not taken sannyas vows, but I took brahmacharya vows from Swami Swahananda. So not being a sannyasin, according to the order's definition, I cannot be the head of this center in the sense that the sannyasins, the swamis and the pravrajakas are. So does that define it for you?
That leads to second question. I understand that there is no direct official connection with the head center, but how do you see the difference? Is the unofficial center more having freedom,
More what, dear?
more freedom to plan their own things, their programs?
Oh no, I suppose you could say that, but if you study the history of the official centers, you'll find that, for instance, the Sacramento Center, which is an official center, which was headed for years by Swami Shraddhananda. What was done there was so very different from what was done in just nearby Portland with Swami Aseshananda. Each Swami, Satprakashananda in St. Louis, did things very, very differently than Swami Sarvagatananda in Boston, though they were both disciples of Brahmananda Maharaj, and the two of them did things very differently than Swami Prabhavananda, who was a disciple of Maharaj, who did things very, very differently than Swami Nikhilananda, who was a disciple of Holy Mother. So each center is very idiosyncratically led, very, very much reflecting the ideas and personality of the Swami who heads the center, or the Pravrajikas. If you see what Gita Prana has done in Ridgely, and who she is and how she worships and what she teaches, it's very different than what Akhanda Prana is doing in Phoenix. So they're very dear sisters.
So there is less restriction from the head office, as I understand.
Well, it depends on who you talk to, dear. Some of the Swamis are very much by the book. You know, Swami Atmagyanananda in Washington, D.C., very much by the book. Swami Sarvadevananda is very much by the book, so to speak. If the trustees don't authorize it or don't specifically mention it, it's not likely to be done. But again, it's very hard for me to speak on behalf of all these people, because so just take a look at the various centers and how they're run and what they teach. It's basically all the four yogas, but how it's gone about and the emphasis. Just in California, for example, Swami Prabhavananda was a bhakta. He was Raja Maharaja's bhakta son, and he taught us bhakti. In Northern California, his contemporary, Swami Ashokananda, a fierce jnani, wouldn't hear of bhakti practices. They barely did any thing that could be classified as bhakti, at least publicly. There were private bhaktas among the congregation and even among the swamis. But the way the yoga that was emphasized was Jnana Yoga. The same was true of Swami Satprakashananda in St. Louis. Very, very different from Swami Sarvagatananda in Boston. Though it was all the four yogas, the emphasis was different.
Thank you.
Very good question. And I'm sure it was in the minds of a lot of other people in one way or another as well. Anything else from anyone?
Brother Shankara, I have a question.
Yes, please. Sham.
Uh, what I want to ask you is, do we have any head of the Ramakrishna mission for the North America?
No, there is no formal structure of authority for the North American centers. They all report independently to the Board of Trustees in Bellarmine.
But just as, Roman Catholics have Pope, who is the final authority or something.
In North America, everyone answers to revered President Maharaj, now Swami Smarnanandaji. But he has no formal structure of authority here in North America. He has no archbishop in charge of North America. Each Swami, each center reports independently and directly to the Board of Trustees and to revered President Maharaj. The CEO of the order is, of course, the General Secretary, to whom all of the Swamis are answerable to one degree or another according to their personality. So again, there's no formal structure of authority here in North America as such.
But do you think we should have some structure like that so that one
Swami Swahananda thought so and recommended it again and again to the Board of Trustees, but he continually pestered the Board of Trustees to pay more attention to the work in the West. It doesn't seem to be a number one priority for them.
There is disturbance somewhere.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Sham. I'm sorry to have to report that to you, but that's just the way it is. Each Swami and each Pravrajaka leads their center pretty much as they see fit, within broad guidelines by the Board of Trustees, and some of them pay more or less attention to those guidelines. Good question, good thought. Anyone else?
Yeah, Brother Shankara, I just have a thank you and a comment. I thank Uma for asking that question. As you said, I certainly had the same question about the difference between being officially recognized versus not. So that was a helpful clarification. And also, you mentioned the Ganges, Michigan Vedanta Center. And when I was a young man, like 50 years ago in my 20s, I studied at Olivet College, which is relatively close to Ganges. And my professor, William Buchanan, who was the librarian there at the Ganges Vedanta Center for quite a few years.
Oh my.
William Buchanan. And I had, taken all kinds of courses from him and Christian existentialism and philosophy, literature, psychology, religion. And I remember asking him, what he thought was the truth of it. And he reported that he thought Vedanta, that kind of through the Swami Vivekananda lineage, that really captured more of the truth than other approaches. And
look where you found your way to, Paul. Look where you found your way to.
Yeah, so it's just amazing. And I did have a little some encounters with the writings, and I did visit the Ganges, Michigan.
Well, Mr. Buchanan must have been quite close to Swami Bhashananda in order to serve as the librarian there. He must have been well thought of.
Yeah, if you ever visit there, you'll see that about half of the books have William Buchanan's name. And so he donated, he's passed now, but he donated his library to the monastery there, the center. And it's just kind of amazing to me how the matriculation, how the dissemination of Swami Vivekananda's message, went through New York, San Francisco, Chicago, and then finally made it up to a professor in, Olivet College. And
The power of purity, as I pointed out, Paul, the power of Swamiji's purity. He had a great effect on the intellectual and spiritual thought current of this country. On his 150th anniversary, the 150th anniversary of his birth, two major newspapers, most influential newspapers perhaps in the United States, the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times, both had two-page spreads about the life and work of Vivekananda. Truly a remarkable thing when you consider it. And so his power is no way diminished, no way, it is only growing. As these private centers grow, each of them in time, well, not each of them, who knows, but many of them in time will indeed become official centers and become part of the network. But in the meantime, they are all teaching what I'm about to talk about in the second half of this talk, which is, why are we here?
Yeah, and that, thank you. I'm enjoying your talk very much. And I think in terms of a religion or spirituality of the future, this idea from Ken Wilber that it has to transcend and include the earlier levels or even the lower levels of human cultural formations of spirituality, that Advaita Vedanta especially has the potential and the capacity to transcend and include the approach to ultimate truth.
Yes, we can find these ideas very much in the lectures that Swami Vivekananda gave in London in 1895 that are collected under the title Jnana Yoga. So to go on with the second half of this talk, why are we here? We are this center, we are a small yet so far successful place where you can study with a warm-hearted and sincere congregation the art of spirituality, which begins to address the question, why are we here? This center exists because 4 divine personalities lived among us in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Sri Ramakrishna, Holy Mother Sri Sharda Devi, Swami Vivekananda, and Swami Brahmananda. We are here, the Vedanta Center of Atlanta is here to accomplish the purposes for which they came and for which they lived. Swami Vivekananda very, very clearly articulated these purposes when he said, each soul is potentially divine. The goal is to manifest this divinity within by controlling nature, external and internal. Do this either by work or worship or psychic control or philosophy, by one or more or all of these, and be free. This is the whole of religion. Doctrines or dogmas or rituals or books or temples or forms are but secondary details. Work, worship, psychic control, philosophy, these are the 4 yogas that Swamiji taught here in the West. Karma yoga, bhakti yoga, raja yoga, and jnana yoga. Work, karma yoga, worship, bhakti yoga, psychic control, raja yoga, and philosophy, jnana yoga. He called on us to practice one or more or all of these and be free. So freedom is our goal, and the 4 yogas are the tools left to us by Swamiji to win our freedom. If you carefully study the record of Swamiji's work here in the West, which is thoroughly documented in his complete works, you will find that he spent the vast majority of his time with us teaching these 4 yogas. And just as a side note, any of you who would like to have a PDF copy of the complete works, just send me an email and I'll send you a PDF copy of Swami Vivekananda's complete works. So his work is thoroughly documented in the complete works. And you will find that he spent the vast majority of time with us, the 7 of the last 10 years of his life, teaching these 4 yogas. He spent very little energy on the secondary details, except to sometimes explain in context why they are secondary details. You'll find some of these explanations, especially in his talks on Jnana Yoga in London. So Swamiji left us instruction on how to be free, how to break the spell of Maya, the primordial. I'm going to repeat that. Swamiji left us instruction on how to be free, how to break the spell of Maya, the primordial and inborn ignorance that comes with taking the human form. As it says in the Chandi, for those of you who aren't familiar with the Chandi, or the Devi Mahatmyam as it is also called, it is 700 verses that praise the divine feminine in the form of Mother Durga. So one of the verses in the Chandi is, "O Mother, you cause this universe to whirl about again and again with O Mother, you cause this universe to whirl about again and again within the dense darkness of the depths of attachment." So if we wish to be free, each of us must come out of her dense darkness, awaken, and break the bonds of that attachment. And that is why your center is here, to be of service to you in that effort. Therefore, let us go forward together as a congregation, learning and using the tools that Sri Ramakrishna, Holy Mother, Swami Vivekananda, and Swami Brahmananda left us to win our freedom. As Vivekananda wrote in his prayer to Sri Ramakrishna, which is titled in English, Breaker of This World's Chain, Kandana Bhavana, as Vivekananda wrote in his prayer to Sri Ramakrishna, Breaker of this world's chain, how great was thy sacrifice, freely choosing thy birth in this prison, our iron age, to unchain us and set us free. And so that is our focus from week to week, month to month, year to year. What do you need to know? And what do you need to do to align yourself with Ramakrishna's intention and accept his offer of freedom? I'll read what Swamiji said again. How great was thy sacrifice, addressing Sri Ramakrishna. How great was thy sacrifice, freely choosing thy birth in this prison, our iron age, to unchain us and set us free. Notice how unqualified that is. To unchain us and set us free. And so that is our focus from week to week, month to month, year to year. What do you need to know? And what do you need to do to align yourself with Ramakrishna's intention and accept his offer of freedom? Swamiji's exhortation to us is, arise, awake, and stop not till the goal is reached. Shall we listen to him? Heed his call? He told us, this is the whole of religion. Doctrines or dogmas or rituals or books or temples or forms are but secondary details. Do we have doctrines? Of course, yes, there are principles. The yamas and niyamas of Patanjali are good examples. Are there dogmas? Dogmatically, I say no. If you ever catch me preaching any other dogma, please point that out. And I mean that sincerely. If you ever catch me somehow making something else a dogma, we have no dogmas. Freedom is our watchword. Rituals, yes, we have rituals. Arati is a ritual. Chanting of the Chandi hymns on Saturdays and Tuesdays is a ritual. Titi Pujas, the celebration of our holy quartet's birthdays, these are rituals. Durga Puja, Christmas Eve, these two are rituals. Yet they are not our primary emphasis. As Swamiji said, they are secondary, which means what? They are supports. They are supports, emotional, psychological, spiritual supports for our primary activity. The daily assimilation, this is our primary activity, the daily assimilation and practice of finding reverence, bhakti yoga, abandoning selfishness, karma yoga, sinking into silence, raja yoga, and setting aside the mirror of the mind, jnana yoga. Swami Prabhavananda, so I'm just going to repeat those four just quickly. Our primary activity is the daily assimilation and practice of finding reverence, abandoning selfishness, sinking into silence, and setting aside the mirror. Sinking into silence, this is meditation. Setting aside the mirror, this is nididhyasana. Swami Prabhavananda often recited this hymn at the beginning or end of a talk. We'll close with it. Our salutations to that supreme being who is one without a second, whom the sages call by various names. Our salutations to him whose glory has been sung through the rapturous hymns of the world, but whose limitless and infinite glory none can comprehend. But again, whom the sages and devotees realize within their deepest complication. But again, whom the sages and devotees realize within their deepest contemplation. Him we salute again and again. May he shine in our hearts, manifest there in all his glory, and dispel all darkness and ignorance. So we have plenty of time for what I always think of as the best part of this time together, the time when you can make comments, share your perspective, ask your questions, where we live and work together as a congregation studying the art of spirituality. So we had a discussion about what is this center. Now we had an exploration of why we are here. What are your questions or comments? Please be forthcoming.
Brother Shankar, can I bring
Of course, Bhagirath, we always love to hear from you.
There is tremendous centripetal force which comes from the center, which keeps us together for a long time. We are committed to the center without any official notification, membership, rules to follow, nothing like that one.
Mm-hmm.
If I've seen it over the years, our group is very heterogeneous and so much harmonious.
Yes.
because we come from different backgrounds.
Mhm.
No questions are asked. Because you are from India, you have no superiority over the knowledge than someone who is not coming from India. These are the subtle forces which divide in a very crude way any group of spirituality. As we pray together, I believe that when we say art of spirituality, we should make it art and science of spirituality, because we are very science-oriented people too. And that is because of the heterogeneity of our group. So the best thing which I like here is that there are no commandments.
Mhm.
There is no presence checked like it does in a classroom. No questions are asked, why didn't you come last time? These are the subtle forces which really ultimately rots any institutionalized religion. At the same time, we also have, if you keep a track of it, we have a tremendous incidence of walk in and walk out in our membership.
Yes.
I think that once in a while, it's a good idea to check with those who appear to be very much devoted to the center and then parted.
Mhm.
What are the reasons? Because not that we want to go into the nitty-gritty of who lives when, but at the same time, it's a good idea to understand the different thought processes. And if you come to think of that one, even in our general discussion, I see so many different thought processes. And that is our tremendous strength. And that is the reason why whether it is an official center, it is not an official center, etc., does not bother any one of us. Many Swamis have come and they are not of the same, like you said, they do not have the same personality. Just in the way that the congregation is very diverse, so also is the group of our Swamis.
That is the history of Vedanta in the
Yes.
West. It's true.
And that is what creates a very fascinating attachment to the center.
Mhm.
Another thing which I have examined and seen, there is no corruption, because many times the religion, once it becomes a structure, like any other structure, it can corrode. But we have not in, because most of us, you said unselfishness. That is the reason that we are basically all unselfish. We have opinions, but we are not opinionated. And this is the reason why what is most missed during this time of Corona is our getting together at the end of that one.
Yes, it's
If you
true.
see, there is a lot of dialogue, because in that dialogue, there is no suppression on anyone. You say what you want to, and the other one will answer the way he wants to.
Yes. Yes, it's much missed, our being able to
And
physically
that is the
get
part
together.
which is missed the most.
No two ways about it.
So this
And
kind
what you said about corruption,
Mm.
Bhagirath, this is why I so strongly emphasized, things mirror their beginnings. Swami Vivekananda was very pure. Swami Yogeshananda also was very pure. And it's reflected, Swami Yogeshananda's purity is reflected in his translation of our opening and closing prayers, but most particularly in the opening prayer. It's an unusual translation. May we study together the art of spirituality. Together. Come, let us go forward together. So that purity, that momentum of Swami Yogeshananda continues to be the underlying theme and, so to speak, the basic chord on which all of the other music is built of this center. So, Jai Swami Yogeshananda. Thank you, Bhagarat. That was very eloquent.
Brother Shankara,
Yes, please, dear Swayam.
I just wanted to say, first of all, what a beautiful summary, both sections of what the center is about and, why we are here. For me personally, I don't have the words, but this is the first place that I feel like I really belong. And a lot of it has to do with you, Brother Shankara, because the ease with which we can ask questions and you actually listen and think and then give us the answer. There's no hesitation, no matter how silly or basic the question is, there is no hesitation to bring it out. And I think, personally, I think that that is one of the greatest gifts that this center is bringing for me.
Well, I'm so glad you feel that way, dear. I'm so glad you feel that way, that those are your feelings. Yes, this center is meant to be inclusive. It is meant anyone who is a sincere and earnest spiritual seeker. They are so welcome here. And their questions, of course, people will have. I don't ever think of them in the way you characterize them. I just think of them as these are sincere questions by someone who is looking to find their way beyond some doubt or concern. And so, of course, they need to be, deserve to be addressed seriously and listened to carefully and answered thoughtfully. Of course. So thank you. I'm glad you feel that that's the case. It's very gratifying to hear you say that. Thank you, Soil. Anyone else? Questions, comments?
Hey, Brother Shankara,
Yes,
Jim here.
Yes, James.
I also just want to say thank you for your teaching. And I feel like you've been a real friend. Oh, there's a distance, in traveling. But I really appreciate the Vedanta Center. I've been coming, I'm not sure, 4 or 5 years, I guess, off and on.
About 5 years, yeah.
And I've really have come to appreciate the teachings and the people. I just love the people there. Well,
There's a reason for this. We are the children of those four. Who's Sri Ramakrishna, Holy Mother, Swami Vivekananda, Swami Brahmananda. Oh my Lord, if you think we are their children, we are their spiritual children. What greater grandparents would we want? What greater grandparents and great-grandparents would we want?
May I, Brother Shankara?
Yes, Umaji.
I notice one huge difference when I hear about other institutions, other religious centers, that they all start with excellent, pure people of integrity, like Swami Vivekananda. There are other places, whether Christian, whether Muslim, all have the original founder flawless. But the trouble starts after that founder is gone. The disciples divide and quarrel and squabble among each other for power, for predominance. But this, perhaps, in my experience, is the only place where there is, I don't know, any power struggle, any internal squabbles for predominance. And that is what makes, I think, a very likable and truly, genuinely pavitra, pure institution, where leaders, the followers of Vivekananda, each one of them, of course, have different personality, but their morals, their ethics, their way of communicating with their clientele, which is us, it is on an equal basis. So these are, I think, some of the exceptional features of Vedanta,
Well,
which I don't see anywhere else.
thank you, dear. I can only say Sri Ramakrishna himself was uncompromising in his integrity, absolutely uncompromising in his integrity, if you study his life.
Yes.
And so this is the kind of leadership that we are experiencing. The order and the representatives of the order continue to reflect that. And of course, that's why I said what I said about Swami Yogeshananda.
But by far and large, it's not only Swamiji, of course Swamiji, I mean Swami Yogeshananda, but all over the centers, what I see is a very high standard of ethics.
Yes. Yes, absolutely, dear. It's true. Because they all are striving to mirror that, as it says in the evening hymn, perfect, of Sri Ramakrishna, perfect, whom lust could not tame, nor passion nor gold draw near.
Yes, yes, yes.
So there's these passions are what lead to quarrels, and gold leads to greed.
And rivalry. There is no rivalry.
Yes. So wonderful. Thank you, Uma. Anything else from anyone? Questions or comments about
Brother
what this center
Shankara?
is? And yes, please.
This is Beverly.
Well, hello there, sweet Beverly.
Yes, I've been watching you for several weeks.
Oh, you have? By the way,
have.
for those of you who don't know, Beverly is a dear friend that goes back to high school days. So Beverly, what have you to say, my dear?
Well, the first three yogas that you mentioned, those paths are part of me. But the fourth one, I'm very interested in. Could you talk about it further? And
Yes.
I hope you know what I mean by the fourth one, because I can't pronounce its name.
Yes, Jnana Yoga, or
that's
Advaita,
it, Jnana.
Vedanta. Yes. Well, the first thing I'll do, Beverly, is I'll send you a copy of Swami Vivekananda's complete works as a PDF. And you can
Yes, I wanted to ask for that.
You can read his, there's a collection of his talks called Jnana Yoga. Now, Jnana Yoga, I'm going to go back to the top of the talk and read what is the definition of Jnana Yoga as we give it here. So hold on just a moment till okay. So it says, July is a month for the study of Jnana Yoga, Advaita Vedanta. As a Jnana yogi, you practice discrimination, reason, detachment, and insistence on truth, satyagraha. The goal is freedom from limitation, moksha. Our teachers say that all miseries in life are caused by seeing inaccurately. An earnest and persistent jnani may break through this misapprehension, maya, and see only the divine presence everywhere, in everything and everyone. So the techniques of the Jnana yogi are discrimination. What is real? Now, real must fit the definition. What is changeless? What is eternal?
If you manage a team, you should be using Monday.com. It's a platform to manage any team and any project. Marketing campaigns, classic project management.
Oof. Contamination.
I have no idea where that came from, but I think Cindy shut it down for us. So the practices of the Jnana Yogi are discovering that which is timeless, that which is unchanging, and that which is infinite. You only discover those through the practice of assimilating truth. This is called discrimination, and the practices of assimilating this are called shravana, listening or reading about the truth, and then manana, taking that truth in and making it a part of yourself. As we take in food, we assimilate that food and make it part of ourselves. And then the third, nididhyasana, insistence on the truth. It's a long and arduous process, and it involves the second part of the practice of the Jnana Yogi, which is vairagya. That is release of all those things that do not fit the definition of real. Now, I really encourage you, Beverly, and anyone who wishes to understand this better, to read Swami Vivekananda's collection of talks, Jnana Yoga, because he goes through this in absolutely exquisite detail. What he describes in exquisite detail, the nature of the unreality, which is called Maya. It's not that it's absolutely unreal. It's just that it's very much like the Buddhists describe it. It's that which arises and passes away. And we become attached to that which arises because it has given us a momentary pleasure, or somehow it makes us feel better about ourselves or something. And so we become attached to that. And as we become attached to it, it then becomes habitual, an addiction, and becomes a real impediment. It becomes what in Sanskrit is called an upadhi, a covering over the truth. And so
the third and fourth yogas tie together very, very good, because finding the silence disciplines the mind for truth.
Yes, Beverly, exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
And so we discover the truth. We discover the truth.
Too old for karma yoga.
we discover the truth of ourselves in that silence.
Yes. And the reality versus the illusions that we all hang on to in this material life.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes. Well, I will. I'm not sure, Beverly, that I have your current email address. So please email me. So
I
that
will.
I can then send you back the complete works.
Thank you.
Okay, dear.
I will do that.
So good to hear your voice.
It's so good to see you.
Thank you, dear.
Hey, brother, I
yes.
got another question. Would you say that the Jnana Yoga is very similar, or what is the difference, or even if it's the same as what they call the direct path, like Maharaji?
Direct direct path Advaita is going essentially bypassing Shravana and Manana, or just doing the Shravana part, hearing the truth, and then insisting on the truth. So you bypass the long form of Shravana, and you bypass the Manana. You don't have to think about it, you simply insist on it. Now, the direct path teachers often don't tell us about their sadhana, the fact that it took them 30 years to get where they're telling you about the direct path. This is one of the things that I've noticed about the direct path teachers. It isn't that what they're saying isn't true. As a matter of fact, Vasishta says that it's absolutely true, that you can simply insist on the truth and push everything else to the periphery. In other words, make it irrelevant. Annihilate the mind, in other words. Set aside the mind. But it takes tremendous strength. And this is why Adi Shankaracharya gives us this wonderful workbook called the Viveka Chudamani, the crest jewel of discrimination, that goes through it step by step by step by step and acknowledges that the practice of Advaita, the point where you can allow your mind to fall, as Shankaracharya said, allow your mind to fall like a hailstone into the infinite ocean of consciousness, and therein dissolve. He talks about it taking a long time. So the direct path teachers, you know, I have no quarrel with them. If some of their students have the character and the power of will to do as they say, more power to them. May they succeed. But Swami Vivekananda and Adi Shankaracharya and most of the teachers of Advaita, including Nisargadatta and Ramana Maharshi, talk about it taking some years. Ramana Maharshi, it took him from age 16 to where we find him at Arunachala. I don't know how many years later that was, but it was many years. And he was still practicing sadhana in a cave at the time that his disciples built that ashram for him. So the direct path is very challenging. Advaita itself is challenging. Jnana itself is challenging. But there's no reason that it shouldn't be a path for any of us. It's just that I would pay more attention to Adi Shankaracharya and the Viveka Chudamani and Swami Vivekananda's Jnana Yoga myself. And I would recommend that to any student here than to have recourse to a direct path teacher that often charges a lot of money for their teachings also.
Thank you, brother.
Well, thank you for asking the question. Anyone else?
Brother Shankar, on the flip side of it, yes, it takes a long time. It's a long journey. It's a very solitary journey. It's a very upward mobility, so that is very challenging. But nevertheless, the groundwork has been done by our forefathers. Forefathers mean spiritual forefathers.
Yes.
And by the principle of science, once you get the velocity, the momentum picks up. So that it will be far easier for us now than it was for them to come to the same point of looking at the world. So that to me, and that's the reason why there are so many thoughts which would never have been entertained, accepted, or even thoroughly rejected by our previous generations, which we readily accept now.
Yes.
Because the path has been made easier just by the momentum of it.
You're absolutely right, Bhagirath. Swami Sarvadevananda published a few years ago a book called The Nectar of Supreme Knowledge, which is a distillation of the Vasishtha Yoga Sutras, you know, from 30,000 shlokas to I don't remember how many are in the book, but very far fewer. And as you say, it is our forebears, it is our forefathers, spiritual forefathers, that did this for us, distilled and distilled and distilled it. And as the Swami who wrote that book in Bengali, it was translated from the Bengali by Swami Sarvadevananda, as he said, if you read this book 3 times with careful attention, you will achieve the goal. That's what he said. It is easier for us. But it's because these words, as the Swami says in the title, the nectar of supreme knowledge. This was Vasishtha's teachings to Rama, just the most pure of those teachings. But if you read the book, for most of us who are heart-centered rather than intellect-centered, it's very challenging indeed. Thank you, Bhagirath. You're right, though. You're absolutely right. And thank you for bringing that up. Our forefathers have done much of the work.
Brother Shankara, it's Keith.
Yes, Keith.
I want to first start off by saying how much I just appreciate the center and just period. You guys get my weeks back in line on Wednesdays when my mind's been going crazy, and certainly this Sunday. I'm looking forward to when we can all get back together so I can actually get to know some more of you guys and talk with you more. But
we look forward to that too, Keith. Thank you.
Yeah, I do want to give a special thanks to you. I just appreciate your depth of knowledge. I'm kind of an intellectual. And so to trust someone, I've got to know they know what they're talking about. You just know so much that it just makes me feel very, very comfortable being in your care. So I really appreciate you.
Well, thank you, Keith. I'm glad you feel that way. And I'm very glad you found the center. Very, very glad you found the center. And I look forward to being in your physical presence as well. As soon as we can, we will. Believe me, as soon as we can. I miss it as much as you all do. Those of you who know me personally know I'm a very, I like the physical company of others. So it's something that's very much missed. But I'm also of an age and of a physical condition that I'm a prime candidate for getting this virus and it taking me away. So there are a lot of people who are very much discouraging me from, and all of us from accepting that risk.
Yeah.
So as soon as we can, we will.
Yeah, please keep listening to them. There's no rush. We want everything to be fine.
Thank you, Keith. Thank you.
Hello, friends. I want to say hi to everyone.
Hello, Mariana.
I also want to say thank you, Brother Shankara, and I want to talk about the question that somebody posted about how come some of us come and go. And I think it has to do with the purity of the center and the state we're in at the time. Like for me, it was a lot. It was a lot. I mean, I couldn't. I felt like a hypocrite because I do understand the teachings and I do believe it's true, but at the same time, in the day-to-day, I can't. It was a lot. And so, I mean, I'm glad to be back and I'm glad to be learning from all of you and trying to follow us as I can.
Oh, Mariana, thank you for saying all that. And dear heart, remember, we all share this struggle. Don't set the bar too high for yourself. You know, be self-loving and self-forgiving. As Vivekananda said, we fall 1,000 times, we rise 1,001 times. We do not go down this path without skinning our knees and bloodying our nose. We simply don't. If the path were smooth, if everything were always congenial and happy for us, there would be no motivation. We would just slide along. No. Somehow or another, as Holy Mother said, all the sufferings are blessings. We may not come to see it until much later. But as was written to my father on Father's Day, dear Dad, it was a bumpy ride, but it brought me here. Love to you, Dad. So we mustn't set the bar too high for ourselves, dear, and think that, oh, because I can't live up to everything that it says, that I'm not making progress. No, that's not the way it is. We make progress little by little, day to day, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, you know? So I'm so glad to see you again, Mariana, and I'm so glad that you're with us. And I hope that Alex and your boy are well, Tomas are well, that you yourself are well. And so, Jai Ma. Anything else from anyone? Thank you, Mariana.
Brother Shankara, this is Haima.
Yes, Haima.
I agree with all the things that said by all our spiritual gurus and Keith. And I thought we are becoming lotuses, you know, blooming with consciousness every day with your lectures and all these readings. And it's just wonderful. I came in 2019, January 1st to your center. I found it, I was looking, and I'm so glad I found it. And it's been a wonderful experience. The spiritual journey has been amazing, amazing.
Well, I'm glad the center is fulfilling its purpose for you, Haima. As described today, that's exactly how we want you to feel. Oh, I'm glad I found this place, because this place accepts me as I am, where I am, how I am. Fred Rogers, Mr. Rogers said it so well. I like you just the way you are.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, it's a wonderful place. And I'll continue to be connected even from Denver when I'm.
Oh, we'll look forward to that. Just so you'll know, my dear friend Beverly lives in northeast California, up against the mountains in the Sierra. So she's visiting with us from there.
Okay, well, thank you so much for all your contribution to us. It's amazing. It's a wonderful experience. Thank you.
Well, as I say, I'm so glad you feel that way, dear. And you know my heart. You know how I feel about the congregation. It is just such a delight and a joy to share this journey with you. Anything else from anyone?
Brother Shankara, this is Sundar here.
Yes, Sundar.
Yeah, I have a comment.
Yes, please.
Yeah, like almost all the Vedanta centers or the Ramakrishna Mutt in India, they are like more inclusive, like whichever background you are from, like everyone is accepted, and it's like they continue to follow their own path, whatever they have. At the same time, they can follow the Vedanta path too. So in that way, it's very inclusive, and most of the devotees in whichever place it is, we feel like we are always one. So it doesn't make any difference, like if you go to this center in here or India or to some other center in US. In most of the places, it's like the devotees are like their mind waves are very much similar.
Well, I'm again, Sundar, I'm glad you find it that way, and I'm sure that that's true. Most of us have not had the opportunity to visit centers in India, so we haven't experienced that for ourselves. But if you visit some other centers here in the United States, both the official ones and the unofficial ones, you'll find that's very much the case, that there is a warmth and an inclusiveness and a feeling of, that's one of the reasons that drew me to the Vedanta Society of Southern California in February of 1973, was that people were warm and inclusive, and didn't right away ask me to serve on a committee and start raising money and help start new centers everywhere, which had been my experience in 2 other organizations that I'd had contact with. Everyone just was happy to leave me alone and encourage me. And so that's what we try to mirror that. And I'm sure that's what's mirrored in the centers you mentioned in India, as well as those here in the United States. If you want to enjoy yourself sometime at a center, just when you're in Phoenix, should you be in Phoenix, go and go to Pravrajika Kandaprana's center there in Phoenix, which is actually in Tempe rather than Phoenix itself. Such a loving nun, such a sweet sister. Or visit the sisters in Santa Barbara. The embrace, the warmth of the embrace is very deeply felt.
Yes, brother.
Thank you, Sundar, for that. Balakrishna, yes.
How are you? I'm so glad I moved to Atlanta and I found this center because I saw few other centers. Somehow this center makes me feel more homely. And I think that is because of you, because that love and all those things. The reason I love this center and I cherish this center. Thank you.
And we cherish you, Balakrishna ji. I'm so glad you feel that way. And all I can say is, we are all mother's children, and when we try to behave that way, when we try to mirror that sweetness and that embrace of the mother, it sure makes a difference. Thank you, Balaji. Anyone else?
Brother Shankara?
Yes.
I wanted to first thank you for letting me participate with this group. I found all of you guys during the shutdown, and it's been such a joy and a pleasure. And I'm new to Vedanta and to the center, and this morning's talk really helped me understand the history and the structure and all those things. And I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, Dennis, you're more than welcome, more than welcome. And these talk notes, by the way, will be posted online very quickly. So if you want to review any of the things that were said, it'll be up on the website. So any of the details, and then if there's something that you want greater clarification about, all you need to do is email me. But I'm glad you feel that way. I'm glad you feel welcome among us. You certainly are.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Anything else? All right.
Brother Shankar, as a final tribute to Swami Vivekananda, in conjunction with our celebration yesterday, I would quickly share with you our experience in Rio de Janeiro. That's where the tourist guide took us into a museum of Rio de Janeiro, showed us everyone around, and then he said, now let me tell you why I am working as a tourist guide. He says, so that I can accumulate some money. And why do I want to accumulate money? Then he took us into a corner, very remote corner. And he says, this is where I want to go, and this is the person I want to see, and therefore I want to go there. And there was the picture of Swami Vivekananda.
Yes. Well,
it was not a solitary voice.
If you want to, Vedanta is alive and well, both in Brazil and in Argentina. And so if you want to read more about that, go to American Vedantist, the issue number 76, and read the article by Luis Monteiro that tells about the history of Vedanta in Brazil. It's really inspiring, and it's a joy. It's a joy. So yes, Vedanta is alive and well in Brazil and in Argentina. Our dear Mariana came to us from the Swami in Argentina.
Yes.
That's why I remember this incident.
Very good, dear. Very good.
Swamiji,
Yes.
on behalf of all of us, I'm sure everyone will agree, we are deeply, deeply concerned about your health.
Ah.
We know that you are a brave, brave soul who is really struggling with whatever handicap you have, but you never ever complain about it. You never give it as an excuse to put away your responsibilities or your classes. And I think you set an example of excellent attitude toward physical handicaps or limitations. But having said that, I would also take permission to say this, that please never feel pressed to resume our activities before it is completely safe, not only for us, but for you, because you are too precious to us. You are our guru, you are our guide, and I cannot say enough what you are to us. But so please do not rush to open this center until it is absolutely okay. Or, you know, that the conditions are far, far better or just like original.
Well, thank you, Uma. As you know, yesterday's July 4th celebration was very different from what we normally do. And it was the congenial and joyous gathering that we normally have in the chapel, and then for food and for fireworks and so on, was much missed. So, and as far as my physical condition goes, dear, compared to so many, my burdens are so light. So thank you for that. And Jai Ma, Jai Ma, Jai Ma for her grace and keeping this body capable of doing this. It's a joy and a privilege. So,
take care. Please take care.
Well, I will, dear. I keep getting encouraged, sometimes quite sternly.
We are right. We are children, as well as spiritual children.
Yeah.
And, we can put on a satyagraha that you will behave in taking care of yourself.
All right, dear. We'll close with this beautiful translation by Swami Yogeshananda of this ancient prayer for peace. Let there be peace in outer space.
Let there be peace in outer space.
Let there be peace in the sky, on the earth, and in the waters.
Let there be peace in the sky, on the earth, and in the waters.
Let there be peace in the herbs, the plants, and the trees.
Let there be peace in the plants, the herbs.
May the gods be peaceful. May the whole universe be pervaded by peace.
May the whole universe be pervaded by peace.
Let this infinite universal peace prevail throughout my being.
Let this universal peace prevail throughout my being.
Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto us and to all joyous and suffering beings everywhere. So, since you can't be saluted in the parking lot as you go away, we'll do it this way. Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji Ki Jai, Durga, Durga, Durga. Go in Mother's loving and protective embrace. Until next time.
Thank you, Brother Shankara.
Monday evening, if you choose to join that Sewa International webinar, you can find information about it on our Facebook page, the center's Facebook page, which is open to everyone. You don't have to be on Facebook to see it. And then the webinar will be streamed live on Facebook, streaming live from 7:30 to 8:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time here in Atlanta, Monday evening. As I say, I don't think you'll hear anything new from me, but you may well hear something interesting and new from the other two panelists, neither of whom I know. So I can't say anything about them directly. All right. And for those of you who want to join us on our Tuesday class, studying the life of Holy Mother, look forward to seeing you then. Jai, Jai, Jai Ma. See you soon.
Thank you so much, Shankara.
You bet, Lori. So glad to hear your voice. Jai Ma, Jai Ma, Jai Ma.